What if I told you that the ongoing trade tensions between the United States and China are putting your job at risk, raising your grocery bills, and even affecting the technology you rely on daily? That's exactly what's happening. As the United States and China dig deeper into a full-blown tariff war, the fallout is starting to hit ordinary people and global businesses alike. Just recently, China announced new tariffs targeting specific American goods. This came as a direct response to the United States imposing a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports, which officially kicked in last Monday. For decades, the United States and China built one of the most important trade relationships on the planet. Chinese factories supplied everything from smartphones to car parts, while American farmers and tech companies sold billions worth of goods to China. But that partnership is now under serious stress, and its potential breakdown could cause ripple effects worldwide. At the same time, President Trump seems to be drawing closer to India, perhaps as a counterbalance to China's rising global clout. India's Prime Minister recently visited the White House, where he met both Trump and Elon Musk to talk about stronger cooperation. This new alliance could challenge China's position, especially within BRICS, as member nations may soon face pressure to pick sides. So what's really fueling this economic clash, and what does it mean for your job, your finances, and the future of global trade? Let's break it all down. For years, the U.S. and China maintained a robust trade alliance that shaped the global economy. At its height in 2022, trade between the two nations hit an astonishing $690 billion. That year, U.S. exports to China totaled $154 billion, while imports from China reached $537 billion, making China a vital supplier of goods and a key customer for U.S. industries. But the cracks started to show in 2018 when the Trump administration slapped tariffs on Chinese imports to address trade imbalances and protect American intellectual property. China quickly hit back with its own tariffs on U.S. goods, sparking a tit-for-tat trade war that only escalated over time. By 2024, the damage was clear. Total trade had dropped to $582 billion. U.S. exports to China slipped to $143 billion, while Chinese exports to the U.S. shrank to $439 billion. In just 2 years, America lost $1 billion in exports, but China suffered much more, with a staggering $100 billion drop. In early 2025, Trump escalated the conflict again by announcing another 10% tariff on all Chinese imports. China retaliated swiftly, hitting U.S. coal and liquefied natural gas with 15% tariffs and slapping 10% tariffs on American crude oil and farm machinery. Trump defended his move, saying the tariffs would protect American industries and reduce the trade deficit. Meanwhile, President Xi Jinping condemned the U.S. actions and warned that China would push back against efforts to suppress its growth. This continued back and forth has shaken global supply chains and forced companies everywhere to rethink their strategies in an increasingly unpredictable economic environment. But tariffs are just the surface issue. The trade war is now transforming how global supply chains operate, and China isn't sitting back. Many global companies are adjusting their manufacturing strategies to reduce dependency on China. Countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore are emerging as new production hubs. Vietnam, in particular, has benefited. By 2024, U.S. imports from Vietnam surged to $136.6 billion, a 19.3% jump from the year before. But the trade deficit with Vietnam also widened, reaching $23.5 billion, up 18.1% from 2023. At first glance, it looks like the United States is strengthening trade with smaller Asian economies, but there's more to it. Many Chinese firms have quietly moved their production to Vietnam, using it as a backdoor to bypass U.S. tariffs and reduce costs. This is especially true in electronics. By 2022, Vietnam's exports to the United States already included $39 billion in electronics, billions more in machinery, and $10 billion in furniture and lighting. But much of that production still relies on Chinese components or ownership, proving the trade war is far more complex than it seems. Malaysia has also seen an uptick in trade. In 2024, U.S. trade with Malaysia reached $80.2 billion. American exports to Malaysia jumped 43.5% to $27.7 billion, driven largely by electronics and machinery. Imports also rose to $52.5 billion, a 13.7% increase. Interestingly, the U.S. trade deficit with Malaysia actually shrunk by 7.6%, falling to $24.8 billion, another sign that global trade dynamics are shifting. What we're seeing is an anything-but-China approach. Companies are diversifying their supply chains to minimize risk. But that shift comes with challenges. Smaller markets like Vietnam and Malaysia have tighter margins and stiffer competition. This has put pressure on Chinese firms, and some host countries are now facing their own political tensions due to the surge in foreign-owned manufacturing. Scene 4. The Technology War. And the conflict doesn't stop with supply chains. It's also igniting a global technology race, particularly in semiconductors. Scene 5. Blocking China's access. The United States has moved to block China's access to advanced computing chips by restricting exports of key tech. In response, China is accelerating its own chip development. Companies like SMIs, or Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, are now producing 7-nanometer chips, even without access to American technology. That's a huge milestone, and it shows China's determination to become technologically self-reliant in critical sectors. Meanwhile, China isn't just fighting back with tariffs. It's also adjusting its control over essential resources in global supply chains. One example, rare earth elements, used in everything from smartphones and clean energy tech to military systems. While China hasn't completely blocked rare earth exports to the U.S., it has tightened export rules and introduced quotas. These restrictions drive up prices and limit availability, giving China powerful leverage in the trade war. China is also restructuring its food supply chain, especially when it comes to soybeans. As the world's top soybean importer, China has significantly reduced its dependence on American farmers. Back in 2016, Brazil accounted for just 46% of China's soybean imports. Today, that number has soared to 74%, and it's still rising. This strategic shift is China's way of ensuring a more reliable and politically neutral food supply. Brazil, with its vast farmland and supportive government, has quickly become China's top supplier, reaping massive benefits along the way.